Welcome back, audience. Hope you're doing good. Cheers, as always. Just a few things that I want to get off my chest. Um, I don't know, that might be helpful to somebody watching this video, but I don't know. Because I can see a little bit zoomed out picture that really what I'm doing here is just a type of playing around. Maybe somebody will actually come and see this message and be exactly at that point in their life where uh, everything around them sort of keep on dragging them on this particular path, but something inside them feels like, okay, it can't be, it seems like a cycle and there's no answer there. There's got to be another way, and maybe that the video is for that person. But this video, as always, alienating all of the belief systems, including the people who are teaching belief systems, including the all the models of psychology that are incomplete. They do more harm than good. Actually, they do is harm. And people who truly go all the way, none of them go all the way because of the book, right? Or a model for that matter. You see, the I'm not denying that model is useful, but it only is useful when you already are living at the edge of life and you have clarity, when you're no longer in the function of analysis that is directed internally. It's very different of self-analysis, and another word would be like a self-inquiry. And even that word is too complex for me. I like to use the word attention, that is placed on a source of all the feelings. Okay? Faith, the real faith. Now, you don't need to know anything. Do you understand? In fact, it is better that you do not have any kind of belief systems or knowledge. It's so important. And if you don't, then it's going to be easy for you to look at it directly, place your attention there where that enabling process must take place, where your mind may be running away from it. It's almost like that soap always slipping away. And the deeper you go there, the more slippery it gets. But you cannot stop at that last step, because that's where like the boss demon, as I call it. And that boss demon is a trickster. It shapeshifts, it changes, it pretends to be peace when it's actually numbness. Only with a very sharp attention and clarity and with nothing to hold on to could you go there and be comfortable with that liminal space that it leads you to. So that thing that is trying to escape your attention, and it's almost like playing a game with you, is where you need to keep on placing your attention and following that as a northern star. It's almost like I was speaking about this with my friend, and it seems like the image that comes up when you look at that final boss is like a Smeagol from, now I remember. Thanks. See, it just takes time, but I do remember. And that Smeagol that has that precious ring, and it doesn't want to give it away. It doesn't have anything, it can't do anything with it, right? But it doesn't want to give it away. It's like the mind holding on to the gems but can't really do anything with them. It's not capable. Only the logos is capable of using them. So this is why, like, when you shine the light upon it, it's tricky. It tries to distract you. sends also some message. You can even see something happening outside of you. Like, for example, right now, the wind is picking up as I'm talking about it. These phenomena always happen. Or like when I'm dealing with this, like, let's say with my friend, all sorts of distractions happen. So then he has to go, right? And so we, there was a moment where we could smash, so to speak, that demon by placing attention there. Um, but the reality is doing all sorts of tricks for you not to do this. Okay? And but you should be. And that's the only way through and out. And what the result is that you become settled in that liminal space. It's, I always call it peace bliss, but you see that peace bliss arises automatically. I wasn't seeking peace bliss. I was just placing attention on that thing, almost like out of curiosity. Like, what is this thing that makes me do things? What is this thing that makes me think things? What is this thing that makes me have like these negative feelings and emotions? And so by going all the way, you start seeing this, that there's nothing there. It was a fiction that just almost like the mind, one way of looking at it, the mind labeled it in a certain way, and that was a negative, creating negative feelings, creating negative thoughts, therefore negative reality. And so it is this cycle of life. It is, you are in that loop. Now, what you do in that particular case, when you look at it, you peel it off, or rather, it was fragmented. So you fuse the fragments back into the whole. That's what you do. That's what the alchemy does. Okay. Now, imagining all these things, these goblins that are holding, the gems and doesn't want to let it go, that is a depiction, or metaphorical depiction of that. It can be anything else, it doesn't matter. It's a story level of that. It's for fun, but at the root, there is nothing like that. There is no form yet. Like it's very rudimentary, primordial states of consciousness that are feelings there. They can be interpreted as such, but it's not there. It's fun to interpret, but it's not really. You understand? You don't focus on interpretation of it because you get lost. You go all the way to the source of that feeling. And look, that curiosity sometimes brings me to the states that like were super painful and there's a lot of pressure there, but I did not let it go because I went deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into those until found that liminal space, as I call it. Okay? And it seems to be like it's a process that it's almost like I had to catch up to this point of like there's so many time fractals that I have not really dealt with yet that I had to catch up. And now I'm dealing with this on a daily basis, but it's like more like a minor. So, but I'm not, again, I'm saying that there's no such thing as like, oh, I'm enlightened one now. No, it is every day there's a time fractal coming along and you have to keep attention there. It just becomes a habit and you become really good at it. In fact, it should always have been a habit from the early age. We should have been taught this thing. In fact, at the early age, that habit is there. It's just being programmed out of us. Because when a baby is experiencing the world, is experiencing the world like that, it's touching the reality directly, So anyway, so that's the capacity that we still have when we were a baby. But now we're going there from this dense reality, but you still find that infinite. Okay? All right. I'm just describing now this process. Now, the reason you shouldn't touch any kind of models up to that point, because none of the models, even if it's a complete model, which is supposed to be holographic, otherwise it's not right. Like, I'm sorry, but looking at the Carl Jung's models and all this diagrams that he drew, it's like drawn by the child who doesn't know what the fuck is happening. It's not correct. Nothing is correct there. Everything is incomplete and wrong. He has this like abstract ideas of like ego, shadow, all this stuff, and it's jumbled all together, but it's not how it really is. How it really is, you can only see it when you are that. And you can see like that toroidal energy field. You can see what the ego is. You can see what the soul is. You can see everything directly. You see, like you don't need a model because you are that consciousness. And this is why everything's appearing to you very directly when you just go there. That's why like the only teaching that is valid to me about this spirituality, enlightenment and whatnot is point in a circle. It's always about pointing there, and the brave ones, the courageous one will go, and the rest of them is going to play these ego games. And it's okay, let them play those games, but don't validate it, don't encourage it. You see, sometimes I point things out and they get scared and they double down on their belief system, you see. And that belief system may sound so amazing, like non-duality, and so then there's non-duality belief system. There's this idea of like, because there is no you, and so there's a belief there is no you, you see. Or then like nothing really exists, some people say that nothing really exists, so there's a belief that nothing really exists, because obviously if you feel it everything directly, there is an existence, everything is existence. And then there's a belief layer saying that nothing does exist. Imagine what kind of conflicting it creates within your soul. And I'm not surprised that these people sometimes get mad, depressed, psychotic, and all of these different things. These are the most dangerous beliefs to have. And when they have that belief, it's very important for them to sustain that belief and make other people to believe it. Because the more people believe it, the more real it becomes, and therefore the more of a pacifier it becomes for them. Because the less people believe it, and they sort of let hanging by themselves, then they don't have sufficient energy to sustain it. And the fear kicks in, because they're going to have to face the reality and look at it directly, you see. And so then they double down. They seek other people who share this belief system that is dysfunctional and makes everybody feel bad. So you have to look at this reality as these virtual reality bubbles. And some people are grouping based on these beliefs. But you don't want to group yourself to any of these beliefs. You do not. You want to go into another bubble of reality where there are no beliefs, and there's a direct experience of life. Okay? And only when you're not seeking anymore, because you are in that, whatever you could be achieving is already here, and that is peace, bliss. Again, I'm just naming that state of consciousness that are the basis of everything that everybody's looking for. By trying to think about this, psychologists, philosophize about this, think like, oh, reality works like this, and then you could see the person has no idea what it's talking about, copying something else, creating a belief system, and saying that reality is like that. And yes, I am saying this, that somebody who's already living it directly could see the reality and even talk about the model that could actually be functional in that person's life. Okay? Do you understand why, for example, these books of Hermeticism and others were even were called like occult or secret, it's not because anything is being hidden from people. It is because people don't have enough courage to look where it needs to be found. If they would look at that very thing that makes them believe something, of course they would have to destroy the belief, everything. You imagine how much courage and surrender it requires for you to do that. And then it's just fall through into this unknown that is a mysterious and blissful feeling, which is truth. And I say that the truth is a feeling. It is a primordial feeling that contains everything else. And why is it the truth? It's because it is the closest thing to love, the closest thing to bliss. And you know where you're at because I don't know how else to explain it. It's very clear to you when you are like, oh, like this is it. This is it. This is it. The peace and bliss is so intense that you know this is eternal. Always been there, always will be. It's always ego destroying. It's always belief destroying. Love destroys beliefs. This is why these people are afraid of love. Ego is afraid of love. Not, I shouldn't say people, because their ego is afraid of love. And like Krishnamurti said, die every day, every minute. And you do when you place your attention between what you could be possibly be attentive there, which is your center, and awareness, which is your background. And in between, you will always find that. You're like a dead man walking, And the one interesting feature that it's there is that your mind is completely quiet. It's not that there are no movements, there are no ideas. There are, but it's so quiet. I don't know how else to say it. And the reason it is quiet because there's no doubting voice there. And it's very clear. It's like, oh my God, there's no doubting voice. It never ever gave any benefit. That doubting voice is never supposed to be internalized. That doubting voice, it's supposed to be externalized, because you realize that's the faculty of logics moved towards your soul, your psyche. Analysis, right? Analytical process. And you realize that, hey, don't ever do this again. Flip around and analyze the physical world or external things and never turn around again. And so when it's positioned this way, you're doing things. There's no doubt about it. So when you're doing things that you don't have doubt whether you should be doing this or you shouldn't be doing this, you're just doing it. And it's not like you're stupid because your mind is incapable of doubting the processes. No. It's not necessary for you to have a spontaneous idea, spontaneous thought, and action. Okay? And the more you live life directly facing that source of everything, the more the mind has to flip around and no longer invade. Okay? Now, one thing I should say that not in all people, but in some people, I assume, based on my experience, that when you're astrally projecting and you are in this creative mode where you're capable of creating things and moving through the reality and creating whatever you want, and it manifests immediately. The feature of that is that there's a complete silence of the mind. As soon as the mind becomes judging of it, it stalls your entire experience. So that experience of astral projection, moving from through that reality, trains you how to move through life without this process of thinking. We can call this process of thinking, which is self-analytical process. It is not useful, should never work. You understand the scale of the statement that I'm saying? I'm saying that none of that motion will ever be useful because it's a belief producing. It is so categorical. And it is basically forbids that type of motion, and only then you enter that bubble of the real reality where the causal, astral, and the physical all in one. Okay? So my video is about making a point of you having a faculty, releasing yourself from that process, and functioning in the world very healthily and very well. I have moments where that process kicks in, but in the contrast of when that process is silent, it is so obvious that, like, oh my god, what a waste of energy. It blocks all my dreams, it blocks all my desires. Oh my god, you know? And like I said, in astral reality becomes quite evident, because with that process on, you cannot create in your lucid dream, right? Because if that process is on and you're trying to create something, create a portal to go to some type space reality, what's going to happen when that process is on? Stalling, not working. Okay, so it checks for that. In the world of hypnosis, this is very well known as a critical factor. Okay, now that critical factor, of course, when it's no longer functioning, it is being replaced with logos. You are engaging another faculty of your consciousness to take care of that chaos that your logics was trying to manage and never did. So logics retires from this job and logos takes up the whole slack. Okay? The real I now are looking at that source of everything. The real I is looking at that. And anything that's coming out of this, anything distorted, it makes it coherent. It's fascinating. It's beautiful. It's amazing. This is why my videos is not to install beliefs. My videos is a portal into this other world where it's real and no longer in a cyclical way of living in a belief system. This is so important. This little concept that I'm communicating here should be known. You know, anybody who's exploring consciousness, anybody who's claiming to understand human consciousness should understand this thing. And some people say that, like, well, nobody understands consciousness, nobody. When you are consciousness and when you don't have belief systems and we're functioning directly with the source, not creating another little story, not belief system, when you are that, everything is freaking clear. How can you say that you don't know? And the things that you don't know appearing to you in a real-time moment as you need them, as it's required. So I don't know what they're talking about. Now, when you're living directly through that lens of light or life, if you will, we're continuously emotionally sort of dying all the time, where belief doesn't have a chance to accumulate. And the only reason it does it because you have your attention there. And like, why would you not want to have their attention there? It's the most delicious thing you could ever do. You know, it might be scary for some people, but this is why, like, if anybody comes into my world, every anybody, like I said, everybody's gonna have to let go of their beliefs and become like a child again. Nobody's gonna hold on to their beliefs. It's just not gonna work. They will have to admit, or like almost like there's an agreement there. Okay, I'll just swim in this energy. And then when people do, they have a good time, enjoying. They forget that there are such thing as problems, because they don't. That there aren't any such thing as problems. There are certain physical responsibilities that you have to do, but these are not problems. And the reason is because the only problem to resolve, your logos, your attention, is resolving in the real time at the source level. The only thing that creates problems, you're now taking care of in the real time. So there are responsibilities, but there are no problems per se. You don't look at the world as a problem if you resolve the primordial problem, right? In a negative way. Then you may look at it as a game way. It is a problem. It's a sort of problem, but it's like a game. You are in the process of enjoyment, right? And then in the game, there's punishment and the reward there. But it's just in a game level, right? It's not ultimate level. When you play the game, if you do it wrong, there's a penalty. If you do it right, there's a reward. But the enjoyment, it is with the whole process. And so that brings me to the world of sensations. We'll call it the physical world. That's the only place where this reward and punishment exist. It doesn't exist in the mind anymore. It doesn't exist in the heart anymore. Just in the body, and rightfully so. It's supposed to be, because it has to have a reward system. If you don't eat, you die. So you see, like, if you don't exercise your body deteriorates. So after exercise, you feel that jolt of pleasure, these endorphins release. Rightfully so. You earned your pleasure. So it keeps you alive in the physical body and active. But there isn't such anxiety anymore that, like, oh, you have to do this, existential dread and stuff like that. Okay, so and I don't know, man, like, it's really hard to see all these people in these cages, and you may even come up to them. It's like, hey, here's the key. Don't hold on to these bars anymore. You can get out. And they don't. Like, and I don't even want to go deep enough into this, because sometimes it angers me, sometimes it saddens me, but I don't know. But then I somehow, some way, I just remain in like a neutral state about this. And sometimes I try to snap them out. I say something that is very direct, Like I alienate and insult the entire belief system at the root cause, at the root, It's almost like a virtual slap that, so they snap the fucking open. Like when somebody is, for example, in the water and they're drowning, for the only reason they're drowning is because they're panicking. What do? You slap them up a little bit so they just come back online and realize that the only reason they're drowning is because they're panicking, that they could just relax and float. You see? It's very interesting. And that's one of those things that when you pop on this other side and you start living directly and you start seeing that, oh my God, everything is all right, and there's plenty of this love, it's never ending, there's plenty of energy, there's plenty for everything. And then see the people trying to grab it, trying to own it, trying to control it. I don't know. They think that they can imitate it, and they think like, oh, if I do the same thing, then I'm going to feel the same way. And they do the same thing and they don't feel the same way. It is because it's not about imitating someone's life or ideas or anything like that. It's about being at the source where there's a plentiful and there is a clear vision of how collaboration brings so much more than competition, Now, I'm all for playful competition. It's fun. The collaboration can be enhanced when there is a playful competition, but it has to not to come from the heart. It has to be on that physical level where it's a friendly competition, and so that could enhance the collaboration, you see. But it but it has to be a game, and the goal, if that competition improved the collaboration and advanced, whatever the goal was of the shared vision, then that competition was successful in the grand scheme of things, even though there's one person who, or a group or one person that lost that, but they provided the stimulus that drive that level forward, right? And these things are quite clear, but only when you go all the way and you pop on the other side. My word of advice to go all the way, because if you don't and you hold on, then it becomes pseudo awakening, and pseudo awakening is worse than being asleep, because before you were like maybe in a in a in a bliss out of ignorance, but now the knowing and the seeking of knowledge creates the suffering, but there is no understanding that that's exactly what it does. The very seeking of knowledge creates the suffering, and yet there is a process of seeking of that knowledge. And what do? Well, I'm making this video and hopefully people will see this. I don't know how to name this video so people could be curious, to end their seeking for knowledge. Maybe that's what I'm gonna call it. The end for the end of seeking for knowledge. And the answer is very simple. Place your attention right now in this moment. Can you place your attention somewhere in your heart where there the source of all the feelings? It may be numbness, even though it's there, but it's hiding. So you place your attention on that numbness. It may not be specific. It may be sort of like a abstract, You still can place attention on whatever that is. And through that, then there is this direct touching of the reality. As I'm doing now, I can feel the energy, the sparkles, the everything, like that thing that people are looking for. It's right here. The truth, people call it. It's a state of consciousness. And so you live in this virtual bubble. And indeed, there are these virtual reality bubbles that are matrix, and there are virtual reality bubbles that are holistics. Okay? They, like oil and water, do not mix because they energetically moving in a different directions. But one bubble that is belonging to the matrix could, when it's time, transform and become the holistics bubble. Now, when you're on this side, and some of you are, and some of you fighting every day to be on this side, which is normal because, like I said, when you start living like this at the edge, you start feeling everything at the source, nothing, everything, right? So imagine, it may be difficult at first. I'm just being real with you. What happened to me, I don't know. Maybe for some people, once they just touch that space, it's done for them. It wasn't like that for me. And I know that it's never going to end. It's just that all of these negative feelings are going to be positive feelings for me because of my attention. Okay, it is not a work. It does not feel like an effort. It is just the artful focus of your attention, soul attention. And I know and I know if I could look at the person, it doesn't have to be in front of me. They could be making a video, and I know exactly where they're at. And if they are, sometimes in that bubble, then I just immediately feel the deliciousness in the air. If I watch somebody that is kind of still a bit anxious and not quite there or still in the belief system, then it's very obvious to me that I can still remain in that deliciousness. And I don't know if it does have any kind of effect on them. It may, where it's sort of like there's an invitation to relax into deliciousness. you know. And now you could see these people almost like double down and try to make money and even push even further. No, the time is to let that shit go. The pressure is applying so you could let that shit go, not double down on it. They double down on it and they teach the same nonsense even more. Other people who are like always also so scared grab a hold onto this knowledge even more. Oh, just a little more of that. Give me more of that knowledge. Oh, then I won't feel completely horrible. But the point of it all is the wrong direction. You let go of the seeking of knowledge and you just sink in. Letting go the seeking of knowledge is digging in the truth. If seeking is that direction, then digging is this direction. Okay? Then what happens? You don't seek knowledge as a pacifier anymore. But then you want to play games because you've discovered joy. Now you have to enter the process of enjoyment. And so, at whatever that may be, there may be, I love dancing right now. Like, I really love dancing and I love learning dancing. I enjoy it. I really freaking enjoy it. To me, it's not like sort of means to some sort of end. It is in both. It is both in one, if I'm making sense, right? It really just feels good. Okay? And that's it. You don't make money from this. I don't know what's gonna come out of this, but I know I really enjoy it, and I'm having dance fiestas, my place with my friends, and we dance. We do whatever we want, and it's amazing. I don't know what's gonna come out of this, but I just know that I enjoy this thing. And yes, it's not visible, like it's not necessarily public, and in a way I like it like that. I like that my private life is where the most enjoyment lives, because if something happens when you are making it too public or too much of yourself public, it dilutes it. You see what I'm trying to say? It's like, rather than doing it and enjoying it for the sake of enjoying it, you're grabbing videos to show to somebody else, and then you lost it. You're going again into that motion of the matrixing, and you lose what's going on right in front of you. What's the point of life? So this is why when it is related, the more the people are seeking the public recognition, the more they living in this direction of seeking, right? And truly the less happy they are, whatever that may be. Seeking women, seeking men, seeking cars, seeking knowledge, seeking recognition, all this ego shit. But when you live life just for the sake of enjoyment, it has all the riches that you could possibly want. And if something out of that springs out, and most of your life is this pure enjoyment, but then maybe some of it comes out and you say like, well, this is something that I would like to share, and then you just like share like one condensed gem with the world and let the world do what it wants with it, right? But it's just a little glimpse of what's going on in your life, and that's healthy. But you're not seeking that thing that you do publicly. It's not for the you don't care whether it's going to succeed or not succeed. Your life does not depend on it. Your validation does not depend on it. And it's really so, not because you say so, not because, like, again, another way of like imitating authenticity, it's like you can never escape it if you're still in the mind. You can only escape it when the peace and the bliss is just emanating from your heart. Then that's how you know you're not seeking anymore. And this is why, like, I'm leaning towards arts right now, because I know that um I know that what I'm saying is an invitation, and if people listening to me, and because some people do, and some people like wrote in the comments that when I was saying to them to focus on that thing, and they had that, you know, liminal space. They've entered it, that liminal space. They resolved that original problem, original sin, if you will, just by listening to my video. Others need to be one-on-one and to really be cornered where the mind does not have any kind of escape. And so there is that surrender there. The courage and surrender used appropriately, and there's that resolution. I can bring that any person, show it, because it's so obvious. Like, right? It's just like me being in the water and just saying to somebody else, like, hey, come in, it's safe. Look, this is so delicious. It's perfect. And they're like, I don't know about that. Put the little, like, a leg in the water. Oh yeah, that's not bad. And then little by little, poof, oh my God, I can't believe I was avoiding this. It's a little bit like that. It's crazy that it is so, but it is so. Now then, when you are in that space, then life begins. Then you may be like, oh my God, I have so much energy. I want to create stuff. Like, what do I create? Okay, I would love to create this. This feels really good to me. And then you start doing this. And then there might be like, okay, how do I learn this thing? What would be the best way to learn this? And then you may watch videos or some read a book on some material about learning skills and what is the best way to learn these skills. But there's not going to be a lot of material that you need, because once it's there, then it's all about practice. Imagining yourself doing that over and over again, feeling yourself doing that over and over again, physically doing it over and over again, enjoying the motion that you need to learn for that thing, right? And now in a real, this childlike state of learning that is not for the sake of vanity anymore. It's because you have all that energy that needs to be expressed, and for that to happen, you need to have a skill. And so then there's that horizontal learning that takes place, but only when the vertical intelligence is already online. Then the horizontal learning has its place, and it's not going to be for the reason to pacify the negative feeling anymore. It is going to be to express the art that is in your soul. Okay? And then you can have teachers, then you can have any kind of authorities on the skill. But also, even then, you have to be careful, because a lot of people of these have authority and they have skill, but very low intelligence. So even then, when you choose someone that is skillful at something, you still want to have them to be in your tribe in that holistic realm. Somebody who's, free already, because then you may try to learn the skill, and that person may have all these other ideas, like have some sort of like sexual intentions and whatnot, or like this predatorial intentions that happens a lot in dancing with women and male teachers, you see, and these leaders. Of course, the women catch up very quickly and uh, basically vacate and abandon these types of men. Yes, they have skill, but so what that they have skill? The energy is so rancid that so what? Like you probably not gonna even remember stuff. Like this is why, to me, if I'm trying to learn from somebody who holds that like really rancid energy and it doesn't really want to let go and just become a little bit more playful, and some people don't. When it's too rancid, it just they refuse because they're afraid of. But some people may be sort of like on the line. I know that some people are on the line. The soul is sort of like winning. There's this ego there. They think that it's supposed to be because they've been trained, they're conditioned, because every other men are doing like that. So then they just following. But the soul says like, no, something's wrong with this thing. I don't want this. This gotta be the better way. This is not right. So then there are people like that. And so these people usually just when they meet somebody who is living this life directly, they immediately just let go and enjoy that. And so then if they have something to teach you, then you can learn, but because they're coming from the heart, from authenticity. But a little bit more rancid folk, I don't remember anything they teach me because there was no connection there. There was no enjoyment there. And the enjoyment is exactly what makes me remember things. If I really enjoy moving like that motion, that skill, and I really feel it, and it feels really good, then I remember it. It's natural. That's how we are wired. We remember something that has the most value, which is what the more joyful and intense and blissful feeling there is. That's what we remember the most, right? That's what stands out. That's what I remember the most. So when I was learning in that more joyful state and I was having a good time, I still remember those things. I mean, you still need to do like at least a few times in your imagination. I've noticed that if you do it 3 times is minimum, maybe 10 times is maximum, but if you do it in your imagination with full immersion and deep enjoyment, it doesn't need you to do it more than 3 times to remember that move again. Because there's something about that when you imagine that move, and every move, it has this, every motion is full of that feeling, that I should call it like, blissful feeling. Then something's magically, it's like an ink of creation. It records it. And so you don't need to do this repetition over and over again, this mechanical one, because imagination is so much better to record this. And then the body remembers it and does it perfectly. And eventually it becomes like a body memory that you don't need to record it anymore. And so that's the process of learning. That is functional. And so there is no denial that knowledge is useful, but it's in appropriate place, only as a skill. In the heart, you still don't really have any beliefs or any knowledge, but you have wisdom. And wisdom is the capacity to come up with a pattern that is perfect for that particular problem that you're in your life, that is there. That's the feature of wisdom. It's not static. Knowledge is always static because it's memory. It's recorded and that's what it is, like ones and zeros. But this thing, it's neither one, neither zero. It's mystery box, and it gives you exactly what you need at that particular moment. It's in pure intelligence. That's what functions. It functions on infinity. And so therefore that infinity needs to be part of you all the time. That's your essence. There's no seeking there because you are whole. But that whole wants to do things and create things, and there. So therefore, you see, there's no such thing that I don't exist. There's no such thing as like, there's no me, or like all of these other nonsenses. Direct experience of reality is that what are you? Is this deafening silence and sparkling bliss, and that's what you are at the core of it. And then when it moves, what are you? Then you are that soul expressing it in some sort of poetical, musical way. It's moving, it can move, and so then that's what you are. Then in that particular moment, this type of vibration that's happening right there. Then it may turn into sort of form of ideas like, oh shit, I'm gonna do this, and then you do that, and that's what you are then. And there are always going to be feelings, emotions, thoughts, or images, which is the same thing, but you see, and sensations. You're always going to be that. You're never going to escape it. That's what you are. And all sorts of infinite permutations of that. You see? You may be focused on one particular character that you're playing. And that particular soul, perhaps, is like, how does it sparkle? At the essence, we're all that peace, bliss. But when we're trying to express ourselves, it comes as interesting patterns. And that's our flavor, And that's our soul. That's it. And you can't recognize that everywhere. That's the flavor. And if you meet another person and you sense their soul, you sense their flavor, and you can never not know who they are, right? Like, it is like, when you taste ice cream, you say, what kind of flavor is that? If it's chocolate, it's chocolate. If it's strawberries, it's strawberry. If it's vanilla, it's vanilla. You taste it. And so that taste, that flavor, is this unique expression of that peace, bliss as a soul. And I seem to have that. I seem to have a flavor. There's a flavor about me, and there's a flavor about other people. And sometimes, like, some ice creams are really cool when you mix those flavors up, right? When you take, I don't know, like strawberry and vanilla, or like a mango and mango and pistachio, for example, right? And you mix them up, and then you get something pistachio mango. And this is what you get when you are in connection with somebody else. It becomes a pistachio mango ice cream. And if that mix is amazing and it obviously enhances, then there's that real awesome stuff that's going on, you see. We're all like flavors of ice cream. Potentially, we're all flavors of ice cream. And some are just pretending that they're, something that is not edible. And stinky. That's right. That's right. I mean, like, I'm saying that there's flavors of ice cream, and But I'm not too far. The smell, the way you smell, changes, of course, when you're living close to that peace place. Not that, again, not that you don't ever need to deal with this ever again and you're done. You're not ever done, because you're living life. You're in a process of creative process. You take that coal and you crush it into the diamond and you build something out of it, like, right? So you are in that process. Okay, you need some of that coal in order to continue that process of creation. And that call just comes to you. You don't have to seek it. You wake up every morning, whether there's somebody around you or not, that may just boop, pop up. And you're like, oh, there's another. There's another. Potential for gold. So there. And now, when on this side, how everything works, I mean, anybody who is on this side can see how things work, right? But still, it kind of can help to talk to somebody who's been exploring this side for longer and saying like, hey, this is like pretty good map, and then you try it out and it's like, oh, that's pretty good map. Like, I may see it different, and I like different lexicon, but I get the point that there is that universal map, there is that universal structure. But now you know what the hell you're talking about, because you are living it, you're experiencing it directly. It's no longer just some fantasy belief system that doesn't have the substance, the quality. You're feeling it, like you, even the word, sometimes you say certain words and they linked up to the feeling. Even words are so close to the feeling themselves also. So when you say I love you to somebody, it's not just empty words or even the need to have some sort of response or um, out of insecurity, right? A lot of people say that word, but if they would really feel it, what it is, they would probably start bawling, crying. Oh, if they would really feel it. Ah, so then you don't say what you don't mean. You say what you do mean. And if you feel negative, there's no need to say anything. You just alchemize it, and then whatever you found there, you say that, right? I don't know. Anyway, this video is really about me. Excuse me. Is that a bug in my nose? Probably. Anyway, what I was trying to say is that this video is about me retiring. Oh, wow, there's a frog. No, it's not a frog. How everything in the jungle is camouflaging itself to be something else. How interesting is that? Wow. Anyway. So there. And this is why, like, a lot of this information, this model of consciousness like that, it's absolutely useless to people who do not live life in this direction. Kind of know it what they meant when they said don't throw pearls against the swine. You know, it's not to insult anybody, but just to say that, hey, no, they don't know what to do with it, right? They don't know what to do with it. They will just create another tree of knowledge belief system. It's not useful for them. It harms them. And so therefore, what the only thing that's useful in the matrix is whatever brings people to face and pop out on the other side. And as you can see, it's not a knowledge, but it is people. This is why you can't sell this as a knowledge. This can only be done through person to person. This light can be given, or they can light up their candle by touching you. It's not done through knowledge. This is why AI can replicate, all of that stuff, but you cannot replicate light. You see? And I think then the second best is art that you create. Your art may bring people closer to that, at least for a moment. You know? And really everything else might be complete waste of time. So, what do you do when you realize that any kind of knowledge to people who are not ready for that is just going to be another belief system? So you can't teach this, They're all running around like headless chicken and facilitating their beliefs. Like they're looking how to cater to the tree of knowledge rather than the tree of life. So I don't want to contribute anything to that. This is why the book that I'm writing on this, again, I don't know, like, if I want to write a book that is should be like, maybe publicly or more popular, it has to be some sort of fiction, some form of art. Because this book about metaphysics can only make sense to the people who are already living and exploring consciousness, It's just like if I would say like how to create a portal in astral, you would be like, what the fuck? Like if you have no capacity to enter the astral reality, and then you start creating this like, oh, this is what's possible to do in astral. And then you teach somebody else how the astral is, but you never really visited it, you know what I'm trying to say. And so it becomes more like a map or a guide, explorer's guide, right? It is an explorer's guide, but it's not for entertainment purposes. right? I mean, you see what I'm trying to say? Enjoyment purposes, but not entertainment purposes. So that book is not going to be popular. It's supposed to be. It's just going to be for the people who live on this side, and try to are learning this real process of creation. You see, and this book would be useless if somebody is like with all this ego and still not looking directly, but they're in a moment of seeking, would read this book, would create another belief system, and say like, oh, look at that, join my belief system now based on this. So no, I don't want this. I don't want to do this. I want this specific book to perhaps be handed from hand to hand, from person to person, um, rather be a commercial something, right? For example, like this, but it seems to be useful. Like some people who came to me for this insight, and I showed them, and it worked. They become my friends, and so now when they're on this side, I could hand them a book, and in a way, I kind of do, but not the book. At this point, I'm just handing them some little maps, and so then they could continue life of what it's like on this side. And then all of these different little advice is useful because I mean I've explored it, and so I know how it works to a degree. I'm still exploring, I'm still learning a lot of things about like causal reality. I'm still trying to just make sense of it, and I don't know if I'll ever will make sense of it, but it does get kind of interesting because at the causal level one thing seems to be working one way, and then in the mind level it seems to be working another way, and the physical seems to be another way, right? And so if you live your life the way everything works in the causal, you would not be a very personable person, because over there are no boundaries, per se, like, but as a person it wouldn't matter whom you're making love with, right? As a person. But in the causal reality there isn't such distinction. There is just love, right? So to be completely integrated person, you have to understand how the still have the causal expressed perhaps in the physical reality through one person, and not scattered through many, or the depth with one person and then lesser intensity with other people. Intensity, maximum intensity with one person, the maximum depth with one person, and then the more shallow ones with other people. So then you can be a normal human being, right? Because if there's no difference for you, the personality level is no difference, then as long as it's the opposite gender, it's fine. But of course it's not fine. But in the causal reality, there is no such distinction. They're just all just colorful fractals that feel like flavors, right? And so you see what I'm trying to say. So it's just one of the examples of how the hell do you integrate all this, and you can't you have to integrate everything, right? Like your soul, your mind, and the body, from the simplicity to the complexity, and you honoring the entire thing. You're honoring the entire thing. Even though in your heart, you know that this particular person that might be your partner, a wife, or a husband, girlfriend and boyfriend, or even a date, in your heart you know that that is God or Goddess coming in form. Like you know that fact. Not that you know, but you feel, because that feeling is there, and you know who you're really dealing with, if you really completely, you know, there. But in a personality level, you recognize that, of course, there is a difference, and that what is appropriate is to have that goddess or God coming through one person. So then you can be a functional human being, I think this is something that I see, or at least based on stories, that people find it very difficult to integrate. That the personal side, and then there's this intimate but impersonal side. And so there's this paradox that we have to be comfortable with as well. And we have to adjust to this. Like I am adjusting to this. I'm understanding this now. Okay, all right, I see how this works. Okay, okay, okay. And so it's almost like, no, I'm still too confused about this. But anyway, but it will coalesce. I just need a little time. I need to a little exploring this, and it will coalesce into something, and I will know. Um, and man, I mean, when I'm saying, when I'm talking about this, I mean, I know what original people said, meant when they said twin flame, for example, and all these different things. It's not a belief system, of course, but you can't know what this is unless you are touching it in your feelings, in your heart. You cannot know the magic of it if you don't. It's not a person. But people think it's a person. Yes, it may turn into a person, but the personality side will have this depth that reflects the same thing that you felt in the heart all along. And you'll know that it's your partner, that you've been playing this game forever, and now it's coming in this form. And now you're in this body and they're that body. But you've been pretending this game forever. There's only two lovers. Always were and always will be. Oh shit, I'm getting chills. It must be true. And I know some of you are going through the same thing. And you feel that incredible connection in your heart, and you don't know what the fuck is going on. Which person is that? Who's that? But it's a mystery on purpose. It may be that there is no solidified person yet to take that place. You understand? It may be that it's not scripted, that it's a mystery. I mean, otherwise it would not be interesting to live this life if you know all the outcomes. This is why even God has to limit its sight in order for it to be a mystery in the um, you know, enfoldment of life. And so there has to be this comfort with the mystery. And in that comfort, you could be like, okay, all right, I'm hanging out with these people today. All right. Okay, then I'm meeting that person. Okay, cool. You don't know what's happening. You know that somehow, some way, it's gonna unfold. But you don't. What the one thing you don't do is that you don't freeze it. You don't say, "Oh, now it has to be this person" or something like that. You don't freeze it. You just explore. You connect. You let it to be natural as it is. Um, don't grab it. Let it unfold naturally. And the best approach is to treat everybody as your soul friend, as your soul mate. Because honestly, in this holistic side, everybody is your soulmate. I mean, you would not meet them if they're not the main character, right? In that more meaningful way. So to me, right now, is rather than moving into like a romance or something that, um, you know, I prefer to just establish friendships, and through that friendship, there's going to be unfolding. And if there's something is unfolding, then and it feels good, then you go with it, right? And it has to unfold naturally. And I know what I'm saying is kind of backwards of what uh, being taught on YouTube. Don't get in the friend zone. Oh, this is the oh my god, you got friend zoned. Man, you fucked up, stuff like that. And now, to me, it's like, no, I'm friend zoning everybody. I'm friend zoning everybody first. Because if we cannot be friends, then how can we be lovers? Write a song about it. Someone already did. So, and it takes all the edge off, because nobody really has any kind of resistance to having a friend. But there might be all sorts of insecurities popping up when there's a intention to be a lover or a couple. But there's no need to go there. Like, if it unfolds through the friendship, then it unfolds. And so that unfoldment, that mystery, that true romance, not that artificially um, created through the techniques of courtship and whatnot. But the real natural unfoldment of the way things are. I don't know, and lately that's what I've been shown. That's what I've been shown. I also said that when we function in this sex driven reality, which is Matrix, and then we go into this holistics, and the body may be like, okay, hold on a second, so we're not doing it for sex anymore? Like, what is this? So why would we do anything then if we don't do it for sex? And then there's a discovery that there is an enjoyment that is way more uh, satisfying than sex. And so that becomes, you start moving because of joy, not because there's a prospect of getting laid. And whatever you like it or not, this is how Matrix functions. All drive is a sexual drive. This is why, like, people like Freud and other psychologists, they never saw this side. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. What do they do? What do the books create? Other people who live in the belief systems. That tree of knowledge even more robust, even more suffering creating, you know? So I'm sorry, but no, big fat no. There's few people who wrote books that, and I don't know, they usually don't put their names on it. Like one book, The Secret of the Golden Flower. And essentially the whole book is just teaching you what is this attention, uh, you know, how it's always like moving. Don't practice static thing. Don't focus on one thing, like between your eyes and stuff like that. Mm, don't have a preconceived notion when you're attending your consciousness. Always look at it because it's alive, it's ever changing. You will always have a capacity to have this aperture and the capacity to focus. That's all you have. And so then it uses all sorts of um, different words. But the whole book, they're talking about this. And as you're reading the book and you're doing it, there it is almost like a great manual of how to become attentive and aware of the source. What is happening here? How to become attentive and aware of the source. I think they have name for like a spirit, fire sometimes, and then that ether that. But anyway, it just brings your attention where it's supposed to be, not about the beliefs. It trashes everything else and brings your attention where it's supposed to be. It's not giving you these structures and all that stuff. It just goes straight to the point. Yes, like if somebody would never done it, then I would say, hey, become attentive right now of the feeling within your body. Or would say like, hey, where is this emotion right now? Where is and they've never done it, then it would be like, oh, it's new. And sometimes people say to me like, fuck, I never place my attention on the emotions. But now that I do, it's gone away. Exactly. So now you're using your consciousness as it's supposed to be, right? So what I'm saying here is these psychological books never helped anybody. Model supposed to be made on this side, that's the first thing, and could only be understood when somebody's on this side. And the only reason the other side is there in the first place is just to alchemize it, not to live it, not to try to manage it, not to try to see like, oh, according to my calculations, that's how this type of person behaves. So now I have to adjust my behavior to so I could be functional with that person. And then that's like a social robotics, you know? It's like AI dealing with each other, but there's no soul, there's no heart. There's no like, two kids are screeching, laughing, and playing together some silly games. There's none of that. All life gone. So what can I say about this tree of knowledge? The only thing that I care about it, I don't give a shit of how it is being expressed. It should never be expressed. The only thing I care about is the source of the tree of knowledge, is where and what are those things to become aware of. I call them demons, they call demons turn to angels. And they come to you every day as time fractals go by, and you get to know them, and you say, oh, this is how this one works. But you play with it and you alchemize whatever happens. Okay? And interesting, as I'm talking about it, it comes online because it's always like that. So So you see how interesting this is? Like, no person should know about how the dark side is functioning, because it's not even good tool against the dark side. There's no traumas. There's no, celebration of people, or like, oh yeah, that person has this trauma, so it functions like that. Oh, poor little fella. Like, no, that's not how consciousness works. That's just like a an expression of this, of that distortion in a dysfunctional way. But you go towards the distortion, and there's going to be a right way, and there's going to be a right expression. So you see, like, knowing the demon and saying, this is the type of thoughts this demon creates, this is the type of behaviors this demon creates. Is there any fucking value there? Because the answer is like, okay, how are you gonna overcome it? And the way you're gonna overcome it is you place your attention and awareness on the source of it, and you don't give a shit what kind of thoughts it creates and stuff like that. Why you should focus there at all? You know. Cheers. And does anyone enjoy, for example, even though you could see it, you could see the patterns of the behavior, and then you come up with this person to this person, and then you say, hey, this is basically all your dysfunction written. Look, this is how you behave, don't you? And then the person's reading, or you're explaining that, and it's like, yeah, but now what? And now you just describe my dysfunction. Thank you very much. That just made it even more real. What do I do? Well, now you just cope with it. Take some drugs or whatever, cope with it. And like, that's what they do. So yeah, that's right. You're messed up. So you have this condition now, and so that's how they look at life, thanks to the psychology. So no, thank you. And in holistics, there's no such field as psychology, because it's not necessary, because there is such field as alchemy, which makes the psychology kind of useless. There is no need to have a knowledge of how this demon is going to be expressed, because the focus is on just burning up that demon and seeing what kind of angel is there, and focus there, and what kind of expression that angel does. It's really, really the best way of living this life. Unless you are the only person who may be interested in doing this is somebody who's evil themselves. And I said, like, everybody who's functioning in this direction in Matrix are, my concern, evil. Some of them are lesser evil, some of them are higher evil, but everybody in that group are evil. There might be very little evil, and they're almost at this on this side, and they just basically holding on to like a last little thread there, and they just need somebody just like say like, hey, it's all right, let that shit go, and so the poof, and then they fall into this peace bliss that was always there, and now they're on this side. And they may want to climb back up in there again, Anyway, that's probably the longest video that I've done so far. Might be. So anyway, so that's my explanation of how this is all nonsense. Okay, I have to get to work and create what I have to create. Sorry. There's a lot of evil people who are like heavily evil that just ruin the party for everybody else. This is why it's not enough just to live in this holistic way of life. Um, there has to be structures created that addresses all of these, the source of evil in the physical life as well. And so far, it's been going well. I mean, Trump seemed to be declaring. I know some people are still seeing America in the old way, but this is not what's going on right now. The order that Trump is imposing is definitely for the lesser uh, evil. But I wouldn't even say that is for the lesser evil because, well, it is for the lesser evil, of course, but it has a potential to be good. What I'm saying, like this idea that Israel and United States and they're all going to impose their order on the reality, and their order on the reality might be less evil. It's going to be less evil. It's definitely less evil. Um, it seems to be their interest in reducing corruption and reducing fraud and reducing all of these different. It seems that it's going on, right? UK is following the suit as well. Also, reducing corruption in the state, right? This is always good, right? I'm not saying that they're just gonna fix everything overnight or that it's gonna be perfect, but I'm just saying that it's on the right direction. It is in the right direction, and how it's going to be in the future, I don't know, because it seems to me that Canada is next. There that woke virus been spreading throughout the world, and now there's this America First seemingly affecting and pushing back on that wokeism nonsense. And there is like some collateral damage. It's not perfect, to clean up the mess and to be completely precise. It's as precise as it's ever been. No one ever actually before intended to end the war immediately rather than extend the war and profit from it, right? You can see that the incentives are not the same anymore. There is this precision. Say, okay, what we're going to do, we cut the head of the snake and we cut out the sources of energy supply, and it's just keep on doing it, keep on doing it, keep on doing it. And that's how it's supposed to be continued to be done. You found the snake, you chop the head off, and then you cut the energy supply to its minions. This is what they did with the Somali queen and its minions. Um, you can measure the evil by by the amount of fraud um, that they engage in. That's, you see, and that needs to be continued. And people who are, you know, depending on evil for their like pacifiers, like their version of drug. This is why I'm saying, like, for example, somebody who's just like selling some sort of belief system teachings is also evil, and the people who are financing that are financing a form of evil. Okay, I'm very strict with that stuff. It's no different than somebody who's looking to buy drugs to alleviate the suffering to somebody who's gonna buy some, teaching system of how to date or whatever to alleviate suffering. It's just exact same thing to me. No difference. In the essence, less a degree of evil, but sure, it's the same process. But anyway, let's just start off with the highest form of evil first, and then its lieutenants, and then its minions, and so on and so on. And so little by little, the intention is there is in direction of corruption. Direction of reduction of corruption. And as long as that's the case, I'm happy. As long as they don't settle in and start saying, okay, now that we have all the power, then we can afford lying now, No. So far, there was not a lot of lies. They were honest about like the casualties and like the innocent civilians that got in the crossfire. It's like, yeah, it is unfortunate, but it happened. There was no hiding of that. And so at least Trump is more transparent than any other president I've ever seen. I'm not saying that it's completely transparent, but enough transparency there so there could be some degree of trust be rebuilt. And so I see this as a reduction. Yes, of course, like Israel is another form of evil. And so that's going to be dealt with when we cross that bridge, when we come to it. But because the state is way too fascist, it is way too not what I'm saying. Anyway, I don't know enough about this. I just know based on the vibe and how it all works. And Trump is interested in seemingly always approaches with compassion, diplomacy first, stuff like that. But then when evil responds in an evil way, he uses his hammer, rightfully so, but still with no anger, with precision. And that is good leadership. That is great leadership. And I think that's the game he's playing. He really wants to be a great leader, whatever that means. And that's good. So my take is that, yes, right now seems like America is going to take over a lot of states and imply or impose like lesser evil, I suppose, on those. Hopefully, not to replace with another evil. You see what I'm trying to say? There is a desire to stop the corruption, stop the fraud, stop the waste. This is all good. It's not perfect, but it is good. At least it's the right direction. Also, this level of control, this level of power, when it's in a good hands, it's a good thing. It's just not good when it's in the bad hands and bad characters. But it seems that these bad characters are not having a good time anymore. And the good characters seemingly grow in power. And that is good. They seem to be not give a shit about the political points, but they really give a shit about, uh, you know, the state of the state, the healthiness of the state, because they know that that's where they live, like that's their home. If they make a mess, then they just gonna have a really bad time in the exact same place. So they could obviously see that how the seed can lead to them having a bad life. Like these people were funding billions of dollars with all sorts of belief system movements, BLM, and all these other ones that infect people's minds and create violence and all of that. You see that wokeism as well. But when it comes back, and then the I don't know, like if the person was funding that, and then their um, family is affected by it, I wonder how they would feel about that, right? And how would you protect your own family from being infected by that thing that you're injecting in the world? And that type of feedback really checks the ego. And so there is because there is a feedback, there is a realization. It's like, oh my god, like we're all in this same boat. I'm in the same boat, and I fuck somebody over, it comes back to me. So maybe there's another way. And I hope there is a reduction. There is a reduction of evil in the world. You can feel it. But we're not out of it. We're still in it. But we're on the right path. So there. That's gonna be enough for today. Peace, and I'll see you in the next one.